The Sega Saturn, and when it comes to consoles with a mascot that beats up random kids to get them to play it, this one ranks up near the top. But while beating up random kids is one option, I prefer a different approach, recommending games. You're welcome, kids. Plus, we gotta look out for the kids. It's up to them to carry on the legacy of these older games. And in order for the kids to care about Sega Saturn, we need to care. And the best way for us to care is to get excited about the games. How good it feels to press the reset button ain't gonna do it. Although, I'm telling you, don't sleep on the reset button. It is really nice. But right away, we gotta address the price of Saturn games because people always bring it up, and for good reason. It's too much. Well, lucky for me, my video is titled Saturn Games That Will Always Be Enjoyable, Not Always Be Affordable. However, I will still draw some attention towards games that are on the more affordable side for those who are looking to play physical copies. That said, as time goes on, hopefully it will become easier for the future generations to play these games as the methods to play them evolves. And goodness forbid, Sega themselves would just make them more easily available. First up, we got Panzer Dragoon Zwei, which people also like to call either Panzer Dragoon 2 or the second one. The price of the US copy sucks now, but a Japanese copy is much more reasonable. And oh, by the way, this is going to be a theme for this system. Get yourself an action replay cart that allows you to play imports, as well as provide the system with the extra RAM it uses for some games, as well as providing you with more storage for game saves. Most people who own a Saturn have one of these. Most people who own a Saturn also have a love for Panzer Dragoon, including the series as a whole. The third game in the series has become either famous or infamous, depending how you look at it, over the years for its high price, which causes a lot of people to automatically assume it's the best game in the series, which maybe it is or maybe it isn't, but either way, I feel confident that a lot of you would enjoy Panzer Dragoon Zwei more, because it's a rail shooter, while Saga is an RPG, and the RPG genre can be very hit or miss with people. Take me, for example. Skies of Arcadia, hit. Saga Frontier, miss. Being a rail shooter makes this game very easy to get into, I feel. Very heavy on the action, solid mechanics, and fantastic artistic direction make this one of the best ones there is. If you compare it to the original Panzer Dragoon, and yes, the Japanese Mobius art be darned, apparently they wanted the cover art to look bad, in which case they should have come to me. I'm really good at that. But the main thing that differentiates Panzer Dragoon Zwei from its predecessor is that you get a charged up attack you can use, which is the green meter in the bottom left and charges up as you shoot enemies. So it all works together nicely. You'll forget about it, and then remember you can use it when you need it most. Like a plunger! Next game on the list is the 2D fighting game made by Capcom, Vampire Savior. Although, because it's my video, I'm gonna cheat and just recommend pretty much any of the Capcom 2D fighting games for the system. Something the Saturn excelled at, and one of the biggest ways to take advantage of having one. I wanted to highlight Vampire Savior though, because just look at it. It's hard to imagine many people seeing this and not thinking it looks cool. The style, the character design, the detail in the sprite work and frames of animation, this is 2D sprite work at darn near its best. And I think it's pretty impressive that decades after its release, the Saturn is still home to some of the best looking 2D games I've ever seen, with what I'd argue is still one of the best controllers for playing 2D games. This thing has some major get off my lawn vibes against newer D-pads. Naturally, if you've ever played Street Fighter games before, then you'll be able to jump into the action no problem. The characters have similar inputs and special moves to Street Fighter, since it was also made by Capcom, not that it hasn't stopped other companies besides Capcom from just copying this as well. But if you enjoy Street Fighter and want to shake things up, Vampire Savior is probably gonna be your jam. Next game on the list is Virtua Cop 2, although Virtua Cop 1 is also a lot of fun. Have you ever wanted to take a bite out of crime? Probably not, because that's super dangerous, but in this game you can be top dog, stopping all the criminals by blasting them dead in their tracks, along with a few random innocent civilians who pop out at the wrong time. To play this game, the game itself isn't too expensive, but it's intended to be used with a Saturn Stunner, which requires you to have a CRT TV in order to use it, which for some of you is no problem, praise be the CRT, but for others needing a CRT might just be a deal breaker, in which case you can just not use any of that and play the game with a regular controller. Still a lot of fun if you ask me, but the Stunner is certainly ideal. Good old-fashioned Sega arcade-style gameplay is what you'll get. What's nice about this game is that it actually puts a target around each enemy you need to aim for. This labeling might seem like pointing out the obvious, but I use a similar technique with my wife, and it always serves as a nice reminder. And don't worry, the targets on the enemies doesn't make the game too easy. Just trust me, this game is harder than it looks. Certain targets pop up and close faster than you'd think, at which point they will fire at you. You have really got to be ready. To add to the fun, you can get a second Saturn Stunner for 2-player action, or even just to dual wield by yourself if you really want to. But if you're looking for an even better method of dual wielding, Stunner and a nanner. Take a bite out of crime and a bite out of banana. Next game on the list is Sukyugurentai, or as some people like to call it, Suki for short, or as other people like to call it, I don't know, but it's a good game. Again, I'm going to cheat and just recommend shoot 'em ups in general for the system, which, much like fighting games, are a genre that the system excelled at. Since the genre has heavy roots in Japan, and the Saturn was popular in Japan, the Saturn got a lot of them during a time when video games allowing you to blast everything on screen was considered a thing gamers definitely like. How we evolved from that to every other game having a horse you ride for hours on end, I'll never know, but I find going back to the games that allow you to blast everything on screen is refreshing. A lot of good ones on the Saturn, but what makes this game unique is the lock-on system it has, not to be confused with Layer Section, aka Galactic Attack. You're able to spread out a cone, web, or whatever you want to call it, and any enemies within range will be automatically locked onto. You then release the button, and homing projectiles will be sent out. You do still have a standard firing function as well, but you'll want to use the lock-on mechanic as much as you can. I really like the stage design in this game, and you always feel like the stages are constantly evolving and or transitioning as you make your way through them. The soundtrack is beautiful, done by the same composer who worked on the Radiant Silvergun soundtrack. The guy clearly knows what he's doing and providing music that is more atmospheric. As you'd imagine, the game is pretty hard, but it does give you a lot of credits to work with, so you can build up your skill over time. I really like popping this one in every once in a while to see if I can make it farther than I got the last time. Having this game is a real comfort for me. Life is unpredictable, but the Sega Saturn will always have great shoot 'em ups. Alright, and the final game on my list is Guardian Heroes, made by famed developer Treasure. They hit on pretty much every game they ever made. They're a developer you can trust. I ever get stranded on the side of the road? Forget a tow truck, I'm calling Treasure. Even the Ronald McDonald game is good. Known for unique takes on already loved concepts, this game is Treasure's take on the beat-em-up genre. Setting it apart, among other things, is the ability to move between 3 different planes. The screen can get really busy, so it can take a bit of getting used to, but a lot of the appeal comes from how much action the game can have going on all at once. You have multiple characters to choose from, each of which play vastly different from one another, with a variety of different attacks. By the way, great job by Sega to spring for full-color manuals on this one, huh? Yikes. With some characters leaning more towards the magical attacks you can use. The only bummer is that the game does have a lot of text that interrupts the game, but some people like the story, so maybe it's not such a bummer to everyone. Either way, it's good to know what you're in for. I was told Ready Player One is great for fans of video games, but wait a minute, this thing wants me to read? Regardless, a great game for fans of beat-em-ups who want to try something a little different. But with that does it for the 5 games I wanted to recommend, although, like I said, it's a lot more than 5 games when you add in all the shoot-em-ups and fighting games. Plus, there are plenty of other great games for it, many of which I'll probably be recommending in future videos or have already mentioned in past videos, as I'm really familiar with this system's games. I'm telling you, I've gone through the Saturn's library like a perfectly ripe banana. In any case, would love to hear what you think of the games I mentioned, as well as which additional games you would recommend. So leave a comment down below with your thoughts as always, and I will see ya in the next video.
Yeah, and he's talking about video games. He's the